Hey everybody, this is Pastor Sheryl Brady. How are y'all today? I'm just waiting for some of you to come online and join me today. Hey, so glad to see you. Glad to take a second and chat with you today. We're going to talk about something very different than what I've been advertising. I had scheduled an Instagram live with a beautiful woman of God by the name of Erin Weideman, and we were going to talk about her books and her children's books. But to be quite honest with you, I watched a video this morning of a man who lost his life on the pavement in Minneapolis, and I believe it was Minneapolis. And it is really pretty overwhelming to me. And I really just want to have a conversation about it. So maybe you could share this and just get the word out. Listen, I don't have a note. I don't have any preconceived idea of what I am going to say. I know my heart has notes. I know my spirit has notes. I know I am appalled at this. I'm tired of this. And it needs to change. And I think we all need to speak up and speak out. What we saw was the actual life squeezed out of this man who was laying on the ground by an officer, by a police officer who put his knee and his body weight in the neck of a man who was pleading for mercy. Somebody says, well, maybe we should wait till the facts come out. Pastor Brady, you know what? I don't even want to hear about waiting till the facts come out. I just saw 10 minutes worth. And I am just so over this. It's not fair. It's not right. And somebody's got to speak up. We got to speak up because this should not be happening. My son-in-law, Mark, is going to join me today. And we're just going to have a chat about this for a minute. Because it's got to change, y'all. It's got to change. It's got to change. We need pastors to cry out. We need people to cry out. Mark, thanks for joining me. I was just telling the people that we were getting ready to do a completely different Instagram live. But we're wiped out with this, guys. Mark, tell us what you're feeling, what you think.
I didn't know if we could do this because I knew I'd be a wreck, but I clicked on this link a little while ago and I just burst into tears because I wonder when this is going to stop, because I feel like every time it gets to be summer, this stuff picks back up again. It's like, I don't know, it feels like a wave. And we just went through Ahmaud Arbery, and if that hadn't been put on video, we may not even be talking about that. It would have just been another statistic, another, And I was talking to Chris and Travis the other day about this, and I said I was pleasantly surprised to see a lot of members from, quote unquote white churches or evangelical churches, and how people had spoke out, and it was so refreshing to see other people say this is disgusting. And I said, but what worries me is what does that look like when it's the police? Because I feel like that's where we have the hardest time a lot of times speaking out on this, because it's like there's got to be some kind of justification. I probably lived that way for a long time, And I saw Christine Kane put something out earlier today, and I really loved it because she said, I used to be the kind of person that said, I'm going to wait until all the facts come out.
Right. Right.
And, as much as I have uh, been around African American people, my family is so intertwined with that. My brothers are both African American. I was probably guilty of that too. And, but I feel like this is now not the time to kind of figure out when did the facts come out. I mean, the man forged a check. That was his crime. And then he according to the people that are watching, he resisted arrest. And I felt like with that many police there, why can't you pick the man up, put him in a car,
Yeah, he
turn
was
him
in
over?
handcuffs.
At some point, I can't breathe means I can't breathe.
Right.
Uh, and I immediately started to think about, when you see that kind of stuff pop on your timeline before you watch it, you say things like, you think mentally, because for me dealing in social media, I've for over the years been the person to craft messages for you, and when this happens, and you think, okay, well, here we go again. What are we going to say? What's our position on this? What do we say to this? And I thought, and sometimes you say, like, when do we stop posting? When do we stop being outraged? And I feel like we stop being outraged when this just stops. And until we do, before that video came out of Ahmaud Arbery, if it wasn't for outrage of people, if it wasn't for this huge rally of outcry, nothing had happened for months.
Right.
And, social media might not be the biggest tool in the world, but if we have that, we can voice what we have. And we owe it. And I mean, I don't know who's watching this. I don't know who will watch this. And I'll tell you this, there's got to be a time that this is not just Black people crying for justice.
Right.
I would say, if you're out there watching this and you've fought wanting to post something, because, the first time I ever posted something that was about racism, I had this big fear inside of me, because I knew that on the other side of that screen were people that wouldn't get me, were people that said, it's not what you think, police brutality doesn't exist, and all of that stuff. And I knew I would lose friends. I would have people say stuff. But what I found out on the other side of that screen is that people in general just want to be heard. And even if you don't say it the right way, even if you don't say all the right things when you say, the fact that you can come alongside of somebody and go, you know what, I'm grieving with you right now. I don't understand all this, but I want you to know I love you. And this has got to stop. I've had so many people write me of that. And on the other side of that fear, we could get something done if we really felt that we're our brother's keeper.
Yeah.
And it's just raw. I feel like I work, so many of my clients in churches are African American churches that, I wrote this down in my notes the other day. I feel like proximity determines our perspective. And when you have no proximity to anybody else that's going through any other struggle, it's so easy to say, that's not really a problem. That's not. But proximity, when you're around people, you start to feel their pain. I never realized until Travis and I had a conversation about what it was like for his dad to talk to him about if he ever got arrested or pulled over, if he ever got a speeding ticket, to what degree he would have to say, I'm reaching for my wallet.
Right.
I never had to deal with that. My mom just said, don't get pulled over.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until conversation. We don't sit around and go, hey guys, talk to me about Blackness. But we do just have conversation. And when you talk to people just about normal life, you start to realize what it's like for other people. And so that changed my whole perspective about what it was like being pulled over as Black. And it's not as easy as we say. There is white privilege. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
I went into a gas station one time in another state, and this white guy didn't know me from Adam. And as someone black passed, he felt just because we had common skin tone that it was so cool for him to say a racial slur about someone, because that side of America is real. When
Yeah.
you see the video of the lady in the park in New York calling the police because a guy asked her to put her dog on her leash, because see, that's the other side of racism that we don't, it's some of this stuff looks a little easier to identify, but it's also that subtle part of racism that literally feels my race is better than yours. How
Right.
dare you ever tell me anything? And I'm just tired of it. I didn't want to, I told you I didn't really want to do this because I would probably just start busting out crying. But I'm glad you did, because I don't want to be afraid anymore. If you're out there and you've ever been afraid to speak out, I live in the neighborhood close to where the protest was here in McKinney. When the young lady was dragged down by a police officer at a pool party. And I remember you and myself and a couple other ones went to this protest. I'd never done anything like that in my life. But I won't let fear keep me from speaking out on things that are right.
Right.
And I just want to encourage, if you're out there, if you have a voice, especially if you're white, please don't be silent on this stuff. This will go away. There's a whole generation of us that I think are raising our kids a little differently. I think it's possible for racism to die out one day, but it's got a lot of work that's got to happen in between that. And we've got to stop being silent on this. I'm just done with it.
Yep. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for speaking out, and thank you for sharing your heart. The Black community is my world. The Black community accepted me before the white community ever accepted me. They taught me so much. I said one day I'm going to write a book called Seeing the Black Church Through Blue Eyes, because everybody needs to understand. Yeah, there's issues, but there's issues in every race. You understand? There are issues in every race, and wrong is wrong. That's what I want people to understand. My mom always said to me, she said, Sheryl, your sin will find you out. And I'm telling you, this is a human tragedy. Yes, it's a racial issue, but it's also just a downright human tragedy. This man is begging for his life. Who are we to think that we can just take somebody's life? You will have a day that you will be held accountable for everything. Things that are caught on camera, things that are not caught on camera, things that we laugh at, things that we snicker at. I mean, I don't even get it. All I'm saying is that it's wrong. And the problem is it's a sin problem. It's a sin problem. And you're right. We have to speak up and talk about it. I mean,
if this were a black officer doing this to a white person at any degree, they would be outraged in the streets, protests, everything. It is a double standard. And listen, I have family members that are in law enforcement. My brother-in-law is a state trooper. My sister-in-law works for 911. I get it about law enforcement. You know what bothers me about this? I don't think we're saying every law enforcement person is bad.
Absolutely not.
But I sure wish the good ones would speak up and say, you know what, this is wrong. Because if we did that enough, we would eradicate. You can put all the body cameras and all of that and say that that's going to help, and I believe it does. But until our law enforcement talk about it and can say this is wrong, we're never going to fix this issue. Never.
Mark, I think it's everybody holding each other accountable.
That's right.
I think it's every good law officer to look at people and say, man, you don't do it. You stop. up. You don't have a right to do that. And I think it trickles all the way down to family members who look at somebody and say, that wasn't funny.
That's
Do you
right.
understand what kind of pain that causes people? Why do we have this superiority attitude? You know, and I'm telling you, it's time for us all to hold one another accountable. And my prayer is that for this man's family, for his life, for the city of Minneapolis, St. Paul, wherever it was, and for our nation as a whole, that there is justice, and we're not going to, you know, and then we don't wait for months to make it happen. Yeah. We just watched this man's life be squeezed out of him. Okay? It's just wrong. I don't know what it was, say that he's done so much more than what we thought. But still, you don't have a right to kill somebody.
Everyone as an American has a right to a jury, to a trial.
Right.
We don't execute on the spot for anything in this country.
Right.
That's not how our laws are. But yet in this situation, we can do that on the street. If we did not have cell phones, this would go on all the time and no one would know about it. No one.
Nobody.
And I feel like it's everyone has to do their part to speaking out and not try. You can convince yourself, I only have 20 people, I'm not going to say anything on my line. But if we all would just take our part and say, you know what, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it no matter how it makes me feel, how the fear, I'm going to talk about it. Because I feel like that's where we're at, that we wait for the facts. We wait and listen, I'm not asking people, you know, I'm not asking people to say things that they don't believe, but when your gut sees that and you know that that's wrong, you got to speak up.
You got to. You got to. And you're wrong if you don't. You're just as wrong if you don't. You know, you're just as wrong. If you see racism and you see just things that are wrong and you don't speak up, you're just wrong for that. Yeah. If I do it, I'm wrong for that. You know, and it's time for things to really change. And you know, Joe, who is a part of our staff and a part of our church, Joseph Anthony, he has something to say about this issue. So I'm going to take a second, Mark, and I'm going to bring Joe on and just see what Joe wants to say. I love you. Thank you for sharing your heart. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to see.
I love you.
Joe's getting ready to come on, and I really want you to hear what he has to say. He had no idea I was doing this today. I had no idea I was doing this today. But Joe, thank you for being there and being a part. And just give us your heart.
Pastor, I just want to thank you for using your voice. Your voice matters and is significant. And I think breaking the silence on the cycle of systemic subtle racism, because I think that's where a lot of the problem lies. It's not that people are bad. I don't think that people wake up to do bad things. I don't think that people, like we were saying, the police officers, I don't think that by and large police officers are prejudiced, but I think the subtle, unspoken bias that exists in the minds of people of different races navigates how we interact with each other. And it puts us in a very uncomfortable position. And, you know, you're my white mama. I remember when I was in the hospital, and your name is Sheryl, and my birth mother's name is Sheryl. And I was in the hospital, and you said, Joe, do you need anything? I said, yeah, I need to see you. You said, your white mama's on the way. And, you know, I think people will try to live in a place where they say they don't see color, but that's not realistic. I don't want you to not see color. I want you to not see color as a threat. I want you to not see my color as a reason to clench your purse or to walk across the street. I have a beautiful 2, almost 3-year-old son, and we can just be walking around the neighborhood. People will literally stop me to say, he's so adorable because he's precocious, he speaks well, he engages with strangers.
Yeah.
But I have to live, Pastor, with the realization that one day these same nice people
Come
that
on.
stop me to say how adorable my son is. See, Mark started the crying. I'm not going to do it. But the people that stop me to say how adorable my son is may one day get out of an elevator because he's near. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't be aware of their surroundings. Like, I'm not saying that we should not be conscious. I take notes of everybody I'm around. If I ever had to give a police report, I would want to be able to say, I saw a man fitting this description. I saw a woman fitting this description. This is what I witnessed. So I pay attention.
Right.
But I don't pay attention with the intent of reporting it with bias. And when we talk about the words like white privilege, it's not a bad thing. It's just the privilege of not having to worry about things that I had to worry. When we bore our son, I had to consider that this boy would grow up in a world that would potentially see him as an animal that would need to be put down. Like, there is no force too excessive. And then you have a Dylan Ruth who can walk into church, shoot 9 people,
Come on,
and be apprehended with Burger King, offer Burger King and a pat on the back, a pep talk before at least he got a trial. We're not even making it to trial. With
come
the
on.
man that just was confronting I have a problem with leash laws because I'm not a dog person. I like Bentley, but I don't like dogs.
Bentley's my dog.
Bentley is beautiful. Beautiful brown dog. But my issue when I walk around my neighborhood is more with leashes and people not obeying our community ordinances. I was thinking to myself, Pastor, what if that man decided to make a community arrest toward that woman at gunpoint? A citizen's arrest. What if he had decided that her crime was so egregious that he needed to take the law into his own hand? Would the law be on his side to stand his ground and say, you've broken our community standards and I want to perform a citizen's arrest? I don't know what the solution is, Pastor, but what I do appreciate is you using your voice, because I think if we don't talk about it, like if we can worship together and praise together and believe together, then part of us has to hurt together.
Absolutely.
And not hurt for something that is persistent in my community. And I pride myself on not being an oversharer, but something about this last circumstance broke something open in me. And I don't know if it's just being home and having more time to think about it. In one weekend, I launched that whole campaign, I'mNoThreat.com, because I have run out of my speechless moments. I have been so silent, even as a Black man. I just didn't know what to say. I didn't know. And I was thinking, well, do I need to wear a label? Because Pastor Brady knows me. My church knows me. There are people that know that I love God, that I have never been in a physical fight in my life.
Yeah.
Not one physical altercation. But because of my size and stature, people could consider me a threat. And so I just took the time to put some thoughts to pen and try to just get that out of me.
Yeah. And it's sad, that you have, but it's a reality, and my heart just breaks today because whatever color you are, right is right and wrong is wrong. And I know, and here's another thing, I know that distance distorts. Mm-hmm. And when you don't really do life together, it's easy for us to sit back and look at other people and put labels on them and things like that. But I think it's imperative that I see your color, you see mine. But the reality is we're humans. Nobody's better than anybody else. And I tell you, I have a real problem when people take an unfair advantage. Mm-hmm. And when you wear a uniform, when you are a leader, when people look to you, and you take advantage and turn that thing to wield power over somebody else's life. You know, I mean, the man was handcuffed, Joseph. He was handcuffed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What is he going to do to you? Put him in the car, like Mark said.
Yeah, I think that the idea that there's no force too excessive to use against a black man is part of the narrative that has to be challenged. Like, there is such a thing as too excessive a force. There is such a thing as deadly force. And there is such a thing as making a bad decision. Like I said, I don't know this officer. I don't know his history. I don't know his experience. But I love what Mark was saying just about the subculture that will entertain an off-color joke.
Come on.
Will entertain a subtle expression of prejudice. Because what that does is, in your subconscious, it makes you at a heightened sense of alert and alarm when you encounter a person that you never met and you don't know them from Adam.
Right.
But Pastor, I have been in your house. I have sat at your dining room table. I have been a part of conversations that we've had as a family about considering Josiah and Ryan in a car together at 17 or 18 years old. What does that look like?
Right.
I think if we don't challenge this now, then they'll have to grow up in a world where even their children will still have to consider this. But
Absolutely.
I've watched you not just benefit from the Black community, Pastor. You are a part of this community. I've seen you stand with us in this fight, and like you said, on the side of right. I'm for the right. I don't want to be able to break the law without having to be penalized, but I don't want to be served capital punishment for writing. Right. I mean, how many people have written bad? I mean, back in the day when you could really write a check and
come on,
and not bounce for a week.
Right.
How many people have done some silly or stupid things with the mod? They're not even sure whether or not that's him in those surveillance videos. But how many times has someone been on a construction site in an unfinished home?
I mean, can we not just make a mistake? People do make mistakes, you know, but when you add all of this other stuff to it, that's just whatever. I don't get the unfair advantage. I'm gonna tell you, I'm not the only one that has a problem with that. God has a problem with that. And if you are a leader, if you're wearing a uniform, if you're somebody in authority, whoever you are today, I think that one of the messages that we need to walk away from here with is that if you're going to have power, you have to handle power the right way. And if you don't, then God is going to take that power from you, or you are going, or like my mama always said, your sin is going to find you out. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take this all the way down to parenting. I was supposed to do this Instagram with Erin Weideman, who is a beautiful woman of God. And, you know, we were going to talk about children and young girls and things like that. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to take this subject all the way down to parents who are wielding an unfair advantage against their children. I mean, God sees it all. God knows it all. And that's all I'm saying today is that it's time for you, for me, Joseph, to hold each other accountable. It's time for us to hold our neighbors accountable. It's time for us to, you know, to stop all of this foolishness. This man didn't have to lose his life. And I don't want to just keep repeating that, but I don't know. I just felt like it was just so unfair. Who gave you the right to put your weight on somebody's neck? Whoever you are. It's just wrong. And I just think everybody has to speak out.
Yeah,
and everybody has to say something, because it's if we don't, it's not going to stop. But
I think that we've been able to create a beautiful multicultural setting at our church. It does lean towards more of the Black Pentecostal world, but I have had the privilege for the last almost 15 years of doing life in a multicultural setting that literally challenges the narrative from either extreme.
Yeah.
We've been able to create a beautiful space that appreciates diversity in worship, diversity in presentation, diversity in everything. And you have always spoken out against an unfair advantage. But I think this part of the conversation is necessary. I'm grateful that you weren't afraid to have it. What I felt, Pastor, when I even started the movement part was a burden. Rita Springer said something when I attended William McDowell's worship intensive. She said, "What do you burn for?" And there are a lot of atrocities that are happening around the world today. We watched last year Hispanic American or Hispanic immigrant children being caged. There's a lot of different things that we fought to, and it was a tragedy. But I had to tell one of my friends, when your house is on fire, you have a hard time taking your hose out to put somebody else's house out.
Right.
And for me right now, this is a burning house. And unless we do our part to use our voices, that's why I so appreciated what Mark said and what you have shared. Unless we do our part to use our voices to speak out against it, even when it comes to raising our children, to understand that all color skin is beautiful, that all hair texture is beautiful, that all forms of worship are beautiful, that all forms of expression are beautiful. Until we raise them to see beauty in all of that, then this is the Bible says the small foxes that spoil the vine.
Yeah.
I think we have done a great job as a country, to give us any credit. We've done a great job as a nation of tearing down some of the big, obvious, overt, institutionalized racism. We've done things to help people with affirmative action. We've done things to help level the playing field with our mouth. But now it's the heart issue. And it is the issue that says, if you're in a joke, if I am, as a black man, in a conversation making fun of white people, I need to challenge that. That this thing it goes both ways.
Yes, it's bad. It's what I said, which is us holding one another accountable in those that we do life with. You know, if you're watching me and you don't like or love Joseph because of the color of his skin, you don't really love me either. And you don't even know me. You might think you know me, but you don't. It's just wrong. Racism is wrong on every level. And I think that we need to look into each other's lives enough to not allow the distance that's between us to distort. There's criminal activity in the black community, there's criminal activity in the white community, there's criminal activity in Hispanic community, you name it. It's there, it's everywhere. But we cannot just lump everybody up and just think that one race is superior to the other. I mean, you're right. There's a lot that has been done against the stronghold, what did you call it, Joseph? The years of
the large things. So like
the large things
we've seen.
Yes, there's a lot that's been done. Yeah. But it's got to get now to where we stand up and open our mouth and speak out. And I just want to say, I'm getting ready to wrap it up because I just need to just process this a little bit. And y'all know me, I don't get on Instagram or anything else to just
not a ranting pastor.
To rant. I'm not that. I think things through. But this just hit me in the gut because this is my grandson. This could be my grandchildren. This could be Joseph's son. This could be anybody. And to watch somebody beg for their life and you not give them air in a bottle. I mean, I just don't get it. And there's a bigger issue and it needs to be confronted. This can't die here. We have to speak up. I'm just encouraging everybody speak up so that we can demand that justice be done here. Because truth is, this man could have done a whole lot of things, but he didn't deserve to die in the street like a dog. That didn't have to happen. So thanks, Joseph. Thank you for joining me. And I'm going to talk about it some more.
Thank you, Pastor.
But
Again,
I love you.
I love you, and you didn't have to do this. No one demanded it, but I think it just speaks volume to your integrity as a leader, your willingness to get outside of what I know even is your comfort zone. I know because Bishop Jakes is our leader, we follow his lead and his voice on a lot of issues. And so I know this had to hit
Yes.
you in a real place. And the part of you that I respect the most is your willingness to not miss the moment and to always lean in to significant conversations that matter. And I believe that this was a significant moment for me to see you use your voice in this way.
Man, it's just what's right.
Yes.
It's what's right. So I just pray that God would just help us, that he will cover us, protect us, and that he would just break every stronghold. And we can begin to look at each other as human beings, and this whole unfair advantage thing. God, you see it all. Your eye sees it all, wherever it is. Lord, I pray that you would just intervene and you would expose what needs to be exposed. And just help us as a nation, help us as your people to really be our brother's keeper, to love one another. I pray for the men, the women in uniform.
Yes, Lord.
And I pray, God, that you would just watch over them, challenge them, oh God, that as leaders, that they would walk steadfast, being accountable, and that they would protect us like they're supposed to protect us.
Yes, Lord.
God, just help America today.
Help us, God.
Just help us. In Jesus' name. Thanks, Joseph. All right, y'all, I'm going to let you get back to doing what you're doing. I just want you to speak out today. Speak out. Love you.